Unbelievable. All right, you're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Let's get to Cairo, where we have Eddie Yeranian live. Eddie, senior reporter, CBS News, senior correspondent, The Voice of America, and a senior member of the John Fredericks Radio Network. Been with us for 9 years, since the day we started. It's one of my first guests ever. Eddie, great to have you, man.
Thank you, John. I sense your outrage, and I just want to say to your listeners that I've often felt outrage when I've seen how the U.S. media portrays things that I see or have been seeing for 32 years and have very little influence in changing their narrative when they get it wrong. I don't think they get it wrong accidentally either, as we saw with Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction, Syria with those gas attacks, which I believe are phony, at least phony in the sense that he didn't use, Assad didn't use sarin gas. He may have used chlorine, but I don't believe that's illegal. Also, the Arab Spring, which was portrayed as a mass movement towards democracy, where it was mostly an effort to empower Islamic jihadis, people who support Islamic radicalism like the Muslim Brotherhood, and many other things which it would take too long to name. But, the media is delivering you a narrative. I don't think it's an accident many times that they give you a narrative that's low on facts, low on information, and basically you have to deal with it. I've had to deal with it every day for 32 years now. I never thought it would come to this in the U.S. domestically, but I guess it has. And I guess you have to battle those who are not telling the truth. What else can we do?
You have to fight for the truth. We're at a very trying time right now, Edward, in America. I know you went through this in Egypt during the Muslim Brotherhood takeover, then the coup with President Sisi. I mean, you went through and observed in Cairo in Egypt some very difficult times for a country. I mean, what I'm experiencing now, I'm 61 years old. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I was a young man during the Nixon impeachment hearings, and I remember watching that on TV. It was on in the summer, and I think I was a senior in high school, and so we were playing baseball. We had summer baseball and stuff, but I remember getting home every day, and that was on the black and white TV, and it was all day, and it had gripped the country, but there was a bipartisan feeling. I mean, it was a bipartisan investigation. I remember you had Howard Baker saying, I want to know what the president knew and when he knew it. And everybody took this very seriously. This thing is a clown show. I mean, this thing is a made-for-TV, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, ridiculous, politically motivated inquiry. And, they sit there and they say, well, the president is doing this for political gain. Well, what do you think Schiff and Nadler are doing? This is all for political gain. And then the media lies about it. It's like I said earlier. Does anyone realize that the Republicans are stripped of any subpoena power because this is not an impeachment hearing? This is an inquiry. So they can just arbitrarily set the rules however they please? Does anybody realize that? The other thing is the reason they're going to keep Edward, this whistleblower, they're going to protect his anonymity is because the minute he gets exposed, we're going to start asking about his level of credibility and what his real agenda was, because this hit was coordinated with Trumping at the UN, where he had a phenomenal speech planned. It was coordinated with a high-powered group of Clinton lawyers who paid for that, and it was leaked to the media and coordinated with the media just at the right time, and it was a third-party conversation that somebody had in the cafeteria. This is like what a third world country does, and here we are. Tell me the reaction of the foreign media. How are they looking at this now?
Well, I don't sense that a lot of Arab media outlets believe that he's actually going to get impeached or he's actually going to get ousted. I don't think people understand the nuance between being impeached and being ousted. But other than Jazeera TV, which seems to be plugged into the U.S. Democratic Party, they're really the only ones who look like they're gunning for blood and they think Trump is going to fall. Maybe someone in the Democratic Party told them that he was going to fall. I think the Qataris are hoping he's going to fall. There are also a number of other countries. I think Iran would like to see him fall. The Iranian media has been playing this up big time. And I think that you also have, there are other Arab countries that don't like Trump. The situation in Israel, I think, is divided. There are people who don't like him and people who do. But globally, I'd say globally, also I think the BBC Arabic service, which is run by the British government, of course, but it's in Arabic and it's broadcast to most of the Arab world, they seem to be putting out the message that Trump is in trouble, and they actually seem to be trying to drum up trouble, which is kind of interesting. I think I've seen them do this before, but it's interesting because I think they're plugged into the British Foreign Service and maybe deeper than that. And those people are also plugged into the U.S. Democratic Party. So I think you have sort of an alliance of countries, intelligence agencies, media outlets that would like to see Trump gone, and they're playing this thing up. But globally, the Arab media, I think, is not playing this up.
What is your having followed this stuff for a long time? Having followed this stuff for a long time, what is your view of what is happening here, Edward? I just want to get your narrative here.
Yes, I saw the Nixon impeachment, the hearings as well. We're about the same age, or a little older, but I remember those very well. I remember Agnew talking about nattering nabobs of negativity, the former vice president. I remember Dan Rather standing up and calling the president a liar, and President Nixon saying he's not a liar. I remember, the vitriol that was running through the political system at that point. Here, I think you've got an alliance. The president put it very well at the UN. He said the world is divided between nationalists, he said patriots, but let's just be more neutral. Let's say nationalists and globalists. And I think the globalists are very worried that, as you said, if Trump wins another term, it's game over. And he will be appointing probably at least one more Supreme Court justice if he wins next year. They see that the globalists have been set back by 20 to 25 years by Trump, and they would like to stop him if they can. And I think they're going for just pulling all the stops, whatever they can pull, legal, illegal, moral, immoral, to force him to lose the election or maybe even not run. So they're desperate. I think they're desperate, and I think there are a number of countries out there that would also like to see Trump lose because he's been very rough on them. The European Union would like to see him lose because there's the perception that he's endangered their union by supporting Brexit. The sense that he's been too rough on China. The sense that he's not been supportive of NATO. So there are a lot of countries and outside forces that work together that would like to see him lose. So these people, countries, organizations are supporting this impeachment move, and a lot of them are tied to media outlets as well. So you can understand if you start digging to see who owns what media outlet, why they're putting out the narrative they're putting out.
Edward, that is spot on. I mean, you are so spot on. You ate your Wheaties today. That narrative, we're going to capture that because you basically have outlined everything in 5 minutes that exactly has happened. And President Trump has set the globalist movement and the globalist agenda back 30 years. Right now, he set it back because he's the first leader that has exposed it and exposed the unholy alliance for what it is. Wall Street, slave trade labor, cheap production, and more money for the globalist countries and the elites at the expense of individual countries' working people. He's brought attention to it. He exposed it. And I am convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the timing of this whistleblower nonsense, the timing of it, coordinated with the media when the president was in New York, set to make what I thought was the best speech of his presidency, was at the UN General Assembly, when he systematically tore down the globalist agenda and exposed it to the world. And that got overshadowed by this whole thing. Nobody even knows what that speech was. And for the globalists and the big global corporations and those that seek to continue to profit on the backs of working men and people in America, this president is a direct threat to their financial security going forward, because people are starting to change. That this isn't something like Republicans that are never Trumpers. They think that this is like a passing summer storm and that eventually it goes away and we all get back to Goldman Sachs, Wall Street, globalist economy, duping the American people, telling us about how free trade is good for you and your can of Pabst Blue Ribbon is going to go down by 2 cents, and all this nonsense they've been spewing out. Remember, this whole thing started with the TPP, Trade-Pacific Partnership, where little media outlets like me started exposing it. Trump came along, it blew up, but Republicans that are donor-based, they want this whole thing to go away. They want to get back to their comfortable lives where they were. This president's a direct threat. This isn't going away. It's happening all over the world, and it started with Brexit and TPP. Trump's exposed it all. He is the biggest threat to the international globalist movement that's ever come along, Edward. And I'm telling you, they're going to do anything to stop him, up to and including tarnishing him and his supporters to get him out of office. I think it's going to backfire. I think he's going to win again, and I think the Democrats and the mainstream media are going to take a huge hit here in 2020 as this thing plays out. I mean, you read that call over and over and over. He didn't say a damn thing wrong in that call. He said nothing wrong. This whole thing is a hoax, just like the Russian collusion was a fallacy, and they made that up. Edward, now they're making up this. And I don't know how long average American working people are going to buy into this nonsense. At some point, they're going to get up and say, what the hell is this? And they're going to have enough. And I think he wins again. We just have to get through it in the short term. Edward, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yes, John, I guess the globalists are on the attack right now. They are going at the president with everything they've got, all the ammunition that they've got, all the media outlets they can muster, all the politicians they can drum up, putting out all the worst noises they can in the media. And I think it's going to be nonstop until election day, assuming that they are not able to muster enough strength to pull down the president. I pray that that's not the case, that they're not able to do that. I don't think they're going to be able to do that, but, when they're desperate, they could do just about anything.
Edward Yeranian, thanks for being with us. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.